Welcome to the Beyond Bound Coach and AD Professional Development Series, a weekly online professional development for athletic administrators and coaches. Join us as 6 former ADs now employed by Bound and with over 100 years of combined experience discuss topics important and beneficial to ADs and coaches. Join us on this journey of professional growth. We're here to help you take your coaching and athletic administration to the next level and beyond.
Okay, good morning to the latest version of Beyond Bound. This is our weekly time we sit down and chat about topics that are important for leaders, with our goal being those of you who watch this, to be more of a leader and not so much a manager. We want to help you walk through situations and help you out, offer our advice. Hopefully there's something worth listening to and implementing for you each time you listen to us. So this week's topic is the hero and the servant leader. So in following along with people, definitions are important. The hero is a person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. So athletic directors, I would say you qualify in this area. And so what are some characteristics of an athletic director as a hero? Well, he's the guy who has to make tough decisions. And if you've been an athletic director for more than a day, you've probably had to make some tough decisions. You often bring your competitive nature when you're a hero. Like, you want to get the job done, you want to do it well, you want to kind of prove to people that you can do the job well. Athletic directors do those things. Courage in the face of controversy. Yeah, there's always going to be controversy. Not always continually, but from time to time. There will be controversy. And so you got to be courageous and be able to step up and take that on and do your best. You have to be convicted. You know, your school system probably has a mission statement. Athletic department probably has a mission statement. You got to believe in that. You got to be convicted by that and stand by it. You have to have unshakable self-confidence if you're going to be a hero. You can't get rattled. You can't doubt yourself continually. You have to believe in what you're doing, and display that to others that, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing and he's going to help us out. Unwavering optimism. You know, you always have to live like today's a great day and tomorrow's going to be better. And we know that's not always true, but you have to live that way. And then you got to be a firefighter. You know, when the house is burning down, are you running away from the fire or you're running toward the fire to help put it out? And my last one, my favorite one, is you need to be a sanitation technician. You got to be able to clean up the stuff. And so that's your sanitation technician part of the job. So a servant is a person who's devoted to another person or group of people or to a cause. And I think you can relate to that immediately if you're an athletic director. So what are characteristics of a servant as an athletic director? Now, this list could go on and on and on, but I just highlighted a few. You're motivated to serve others. I don't know why you would take a job as an athletic director if you were not motivated to serve others. You need to listen first. I don't think I need to say any more about that. You work behind the scenes. There's a lot of things that go on that, you know, you're not going to be seen. No one knows that you did it, but you're serving others while doing that. You look for ways to make other people's jobs easier. You know, as an AD, ideally, let's talk about track, Brian Peterson. You know, the athletic director, if he's doing his job, the track coach on meet day doesn't have a lot to do besides coaching. Now, I realize you were a coach and AD at that time. but the AD should have that track meet up and running so the coach can coach. So make his job easier. You help others perform at a high level. You're nurturing, mentoring your coaches so they can perform at a high level. Just like the coach nurtures, mentors, trains, teaches his athletes. Same thing as an AD. And then you develop and train other people to be servants. You can't be the only one serving. You've got to get a collection of co-workers that are on that same mission with you, and they love to serve, and you've trained them and what needs to be done, and developing them and their skills as servants. So I know that in the world there are people who say that you can't have a heroic view or a heroic approach to leadership anymore these days. I disagree, and that's why I came up with the positives on the hero side. And there are people who say the only way you can be a good leader is to be a servant leader. Certainly you want to be. So I pose the question here, as leaders, can we be both a hero and a servant? And then I'm going to post those lists, gentlemen, and if you need to look at those. I'm going to start with Scott. If you go through those, Scott, perhaps you have a story or two or an experience or a scenario, whatever you want to come up with, as a servant and also as a hero.
Well, when you talked about that servant piece, Mark, I literally thought of Batman, because you talked about doing that work in the dark. And, Batman didn't want to have anybody know who he was. But at night, during the day, he'd go do his business. And then at night, he was fighting crime. And I feel like as athletic directors, we do a lot of that. We're out there helping others. We're doing things that people don't even know about, probably never know what we really do. I was just on a call with a group of ADs from New York. And we started talking about Bob Stolmaker from New York was talking about, he was meeting at an event, and he had the Attorney General of New York that then became the mayor of New York said to him, is like, well, being AD, that must be fun. You just get to go to watch games. And so Bob thought, he said at the meeting, is like, hey, if the Attorney General in our state thinks that's what I do is just watch games, then my people in my school don't know what I do either. So how important it is for us to do that work in the dark, to shine light on others, to help others, is so important in what we do. So as soon as you said that, I thought of Batman. I don't know that we have, as in times of being a hero, I would just say there's not many times where you get the pat on the back as an AD. And I talk about this all the time. I've got my crappy day folder. And whenever I'm having a tough day, I go dig through that. And that's cards, emails that I've printed out. I still print out emails if they're good ones that make me feel good. And I'll go to that crappy day folder and I'll start reading some of the things, the impact and the influence that I've had the opportunity to serve others. And if I wouldn't have served others, I wouldn't have gotten those cards, those emails, those kudos from people. So although they might not be in the limelight, when I go back to the Batman, it's all those things that you get maybe on the side. You're not probably on the front page of the newspaper. You're not at the top of the podium, but it is satisfying as an AD to know and understand that you had a part in putting people in those positions on the podium, on the front page of the paper. So ADs are great at shining light on others.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I can picture Scott, when somebody approaches him and says, what do you do? And he says, I'm Batman. So, that's fitting for you, Scott.
Yes.
Aaron, I'm going to you next. Is there a time when you were a hero, even though you wouldn't brag about it at the time? Maybe there was a time you were a hero, and then speak about servanthood as well.
And so a story came to mind, and you're right. I don't necessarily like to have this the term hero behind this, but I'm gonna go back to because I think both of these things fit, and that where you could behave in a way that people could look at and say, wow, that was kind of above and beyond. All right. And it served a bigger purpose for your kids, your coaches, your program. So we were hosting a school in a regional final softball game. And we knew the rain was coming and things like that, but we got to feel ready to go. And it was gonna be a tight game. I mean, this was at the beginning of our really successful run we had there, 17, 18, 19, 20. It was in the front end of that. And rain moves in right before the game starts, and it was a tough rain. I mean, it rained hard. There's puddles and running water on the infield of the softball field, and the rain finished. The coaches and I met at the pitcher's mound, and actually one of the Gazette reporters was there, those two Metro teams, and took a picture. And I remember the picture is myself standing with both the softball coaches at either side of me, and we're surveying. We're in the pitcher's circle, kind of in that area. We're surveying the field. Prairie coach is like, oh, they're okay, coming back tomorrow, right? We're not playing this. Our coach was kind of staying silent. And the picture is me. I got my hands on my hips. The two coaches are kind of looking around. You can just see the wheels spinning on what are we going to do here, right? And I'm listening to the two dugouts, and our girls are having a ball in the dugout. They're having a good time. They're fun. They're excited, happy to be here. And I'm watching the other team's dugout, and they were like sulking, like, can we just decide and we can go home? You could just tell the two mindsets. And I'm on the field saying, there's no freaking way we're playing this game. Absolutely no way. But I'm looking at the two dugouts thinking, our team has the upper edge here. We still want to be here. We still want to play, and they don't. And so we kind of, I said, give me 5 minutes to see what happens in 5 minutes. And then check radar. We stepped away. And I went with my coach towards our dugout. And I told my coach, we're playing this freaking game. She goes, you're nuts. I said, we're playing the game because they don't want to, and your kids do, and that's in our advantage. So she thinks I'm nuts. She's talking to her kids in the dugout. All the fans are like, would you guys just make a decision? Let's go. I went and grabbed a wheelbarrow, grabbed a shovel, and I started digging the wet mud muck out of the batter's boxes and the pitcher's mound. Eventually, I've got more parents come out and help. And 45 minutes later, we're playing softball, and our girls actually ran that to other team off the diamond. And it was just one of those times where I just decided, you know what? There's an opportunity for our kids here to have an advantage. It's going to be a lot of work. We probably shouldn't do it. It's a dumb idea, but let's get it done and then lead that charge to get it done. It's kind of what I think about those types of moments as an AD where you can kind of set the tone and make something happen when other people don't think it can. And that might seem like a simple thing, but turned into a big thing for us there. So.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of being a hero and a servant leader at the same time. And most likely you had people coming up to you afterwards saying thank you. You know, they don't always, but sometimes in those situations, they realize you went above and beyond and they will thank you.
They started to, and I disappeared for a while. Yeah. Once it was going and running, I had a few people say something, and I made this. That wasn't why I did it. I didn't want that. I didn't want the pat in the back. I went and disappeared and hid for a while until the game started and people moved on. Because it wasn't about me and getting that done. It was about, let's get the kids out there in the field playing because we got the upper hand here.
Yep. Todd, you got some experiences to share?
I do. Two came to mind. I try not to overthink, and I usually go with the first example that comes to mind. I'm going to start with the hero side because that's what I wrote down first, and if I don't, I'll be all confused. I go back to really my first time as an AD being thrown into the fire. It was 25 years ago at Nebraska Christian College, and we were in the fall of 1999, and it was a hayrack ride, and we dubbed it the hayrack ride, hayrack ride, because the hayrack came apart from the tractor and tipped over, and we had students hurt. We had one life flighted, and we had, it was at night. It was an October evening, and all of a sudden we had this catastrophe on our hands. And I was athletic director and dean of students at that time at Nebraska Christian. And so we had media there. We had TV stations from Sioux City, Omaha, and all of a sudden I was the face of this disaster, really. Now the young lady that was life flighted lived, and it was more of a something happened with I forget, liver or something, but she was in pretty serious. Obviously, if life flight came, it was pretty serious. But all of a sudden, I had to walk into the fire, and it was my first experience in really leadership outside of coaching, because it was my first administrative experience, and you're not prepared for it. But I remember, you're not trained for it. It's just the old adjust, adapt, and overcome. Before I even had that phrase in my terminology or in my life that you can refer to now, it's just something you did because you were the leader, and I had to learn on the fly, and I had to talk on the fly, and I had to try and be intelligent on the fly, and so it was just one of those things where you had to walk into it and you had to face it. On the servant side, there's a picture that my lovely wife took. It's going to be about 10 years ago, probably, because I know it was Valentine's Day, and we were in Carlisle, and it was the year we were state semifinalists in girls basketball, after being 1-21 the year before. And so it was February, it was late February, and our girls were playing a game, and I was down in the corner of the floor, and the game's going on. You can tell that the bleachers are packed. You can just tell there's excitement in the gym. And Deb was up above on a landing, and she just took this picture of me standing there watching the game. And it goes back to what Scott said of, we do so many things behind the scenes. And it's one of the most satisfying pictures that I can think of in my career, because you had put in all this work. We were fortunate to hire the right person at the right time, and he captured those kids' hearts, and they were able to play outstanding, incredible basketball for a season and turn things around. And we went from having nobody in the stands to a year later having our stands packed and the place just electric in the old Carlisle barn. If anybody remembers that place, a small little gym. But that's one of the most satisfying pictures to me, because it just reminded me of all the work that you do behind the scenes and in the dark. And then sometimes we do get to stand back, and we get to stand in the corner, and we just get to take it all in. And that was one of those moments that I remember.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, standing back and taking it all in and seeing the smiles on the faces of all the people in the bleachers had to be awesome, because like you said, the year before didn't win much, nobody coming to the games, and now everybody's there, everybody's happy. Kind of warms your heart.
Yeah.
Brian Peterson.
That was an incredible turnaround.
Todd, that's why you normally back clean up there, buddy, because you just nailed that. Now I have to go somehow.
I thought I'd put a little pressure on you, BP.
Yeah, that's no kidding. And Todd, what you just said there is oftentimes, if anybody asks me what I loved about being the AD, that was it. Watching our kids and watching our coaches break through or make the next big push, or just something as simple as we're better than we were before. Just the elation from I did that as a kid, and watching that as an AD, that's what it was all about in my mind. So specific stories, I think I'd be hard pressed to give specifics without giving away way too much information. But when you talk about being a hero, and then you mentioned making tough decisions and having convictions behind those, I think that's what makes a great leader, is you have convictions and you make that decision. A lot of times, and any leaders listening to this, coaches, ADs, it doesn't matter. A lot of times you could go different ways with your decision making, but if you have convictions and you know what's right, then just do it. Just do it and stick to it and know why you did it and tell everybody why you did it. And I've got multiple situations I can think of off the top of my head that where we stood behind a kid that everybody else was turning on, or we stood behind a coach. And oftentimes I told people it was part of my job. I felt like protecting my coaches from the outside noise really felt like something that I had to do so that they could coach, so that they could get the most out of those kids. And running towards that fire, that was a hard first lesson for me as an AD, was attacking something instead of just sitting back and saying, it'll be fine. It'll go away. It doesn't. ADs listening, it doesn't go away. It's not. Just go attack it. Go attack it with conviction and stand behind it 100%. So when it comes to servant, this might get a little bit convoluted here, but a little bit. But I listened to a pastor one time at a wedding talking about being married is not about the big days, the anniversaries, the birthdays, the vacations, the birth of your children. 99.99% of being married is about Tuesday or Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. and changing a diaper and all the stuff that you never think about. When you guys, I see a lot of head shaking. You guys get where I'm going with this. That to me translated so well into the AD or leadership role and that servant leadership. ADs don't assume, and coaches don't assume, it's all about the state titles and the big, huge things. It is such a day-to-day task driven that you're making everybody's lives a little bit better. And it's so minute, you can't even pinpoint what you're doing. Because when somebody says, what do you do for a job? Well, I'm an AD. Well, what do you do? And, okay, let me see here. I walked past and I picked up some trash in the bleachers so that people didn't come to our stands and say, this place is a pigsty. I went down, I changed the hurdle settings down to 30 because I knew when they got down there to start the track meet, it's going to be at 30 and they're already at 33 and nobody's going to know. So there are all these little tiny things. And the only story that came right to mind was I was in school one day on a Sunday. I was doing some work and then I was going to go home, and I went and walked past both gyms just to make sure we had a game. We had some practices the next day, or we had practices that weekend, and then we had games. And there was a volleyball thing going on, and they had left the hoops up. So I went and instead of my basketball coaches having to do that, I went and started putting hoops down, the key in the wall, and really slow. And we always had a cable get stuck on the pole, and the hoop would get stuck. And I could have waited, or I could have let my coaches do it. And I just thought to myself, those things, nobody's there. Nobody even knows that happened. I had to go and get a 12-foot ladder. I had to go get a pole. I was standing up there all by myself in the dark, moving this cable around. And when somebody asked what you do as an AD, that's what I said. And it was all just because I wanted tomorrow to go well. That was it. I want my coaches to show up. I want my kids to show up and they not know anything was amiss at all. So when you talk about servant leadership, I think about that's the Tuesday mornings. That's the Wednesday afternoons. It's not the games all the time. It's not all the other things. It's pulling a student aside and talking to them about their coach. It's all those little things that we all do. That's what being an AD is, and that's what servant leadership is, in my opinion.
Yep, that's good stuff. For those of you watching this, I think if I can maybe summarize what I'm hearing from these guys is that your heroic actions kind of lead you to be a servant leader. They prove that you're a servant leader, provided you're not doing it for your own pat on the back. You're doing it in the background, but your heroic actions really prove you're a servant leader. So hopefully everyone can pick up something from this today. And we thank you for watching. and make it a great day or not. The choice is yours.